So you want to be a seller on Amazon? Well, listen up. Today, we've got the premier attorney that deals with Amazon issues, and you want to stay tuned, and we'll reveal the top 5 mistakes that you definitely don't want to do when you are selling on Amazon. Hey, it's time for What the Tech. Go ahead and roll the intro. Hello there, it's Rolando, the founder of Global Tech Worldwide. And if you have not seen us before or joined one of our other sessions, this is What the Tech, where we talk about tech, community, and issues affecting the business environment. And on today's show, we've got a good one for you. But before we get to all of the meat, I want to bring out my good friend and co-pilot, Dave Kelly.
Rolando, man, it is a good day to be alive. Really
Hey.
looking forward to today's episode. I think we definitely have a good one lined up, along with some very important tips for folks that are selling on Amazon. Hey, listen, before you introduce our guest, let's do what we like to do. We like to jump into a nice trivia question.
All right, let's go for it.
All right, 2 truths and a lie. I think I'm 0-6 for these. So 2 truths and a lie, Rolando. 2 of these statements are true. The other is fake. Which is which? Number 1.
You go for it. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
All right. Number 1. The fastest delivery record for same-day Prime delivery is 23 minutes. Impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2. It took Amazon 5 years before recording an annual net profit for the first time. Interesting. Or number 3, Amazon's first customer got a building named after him.
That's a That's a
Those are all a We'll find out later in the episode to find out what is true and what is false.
All right, and we'll have CJ helping us along with that. All right. Interesting stuff. Thank you, Ori. Thanks for challenging our brains today. So let's introduce the guest because we got a lot we want to ask him. So let's get right to it. CJ is the founding partner of the law firm Rosenbaum, Famularo, and Segal, the law firm behind AmazonSellerLawyers.com, a dynamic firm that has the ability to approach your Amazon issue from every angle. And it is considered the #1 law firm in the country for Amazon sellers. Let's not waste any time and bring him out of the green room, CJ Rosenbaum.
Hey, CJ.
Hey, CJ.
Hey guys, I gotta jump in and correct something after I play this virtual piano.
Okay.
First of all, we are the #1 law firm when it comes to the Amazon space. There are certainly smarter guys in other areas than I am and my team, but when it comes to Amazon, we are head and shoulders the best, and it's all over the world. We have clients in every marketplace in practically every country around the globe. And it's not because I'm such a genius, because we have just an incredibly awesome team.
It's not your good looks?
It's certainly not my good looks. It's certainly not that.
No, CJ, you guys are doing outstanding work on Amazon. I mean, just go online and anybody who does a search for your firm will find a lot of sellers that have used your services and are a glowing 5-star reviews. So I'm impressed with you guys. I've been impressed with you since, you know where I met you? I met you in Atlanta at a Resonate conference a couple of years ago. This is before the pandemic. And I believe you spoken on something down there. And I can't remember. I said, we gotta talk.
Yeah, Resonate is always a good slate of speakers. And I learned from you. I learned from all the different speakers. You know, I learned from sellers every day, and happy to pay it forward. That's why we put out so much content to empower people to succeed.
Well, I can't agree more with that, man. You guys really do a wonderful job. So let's jump into these questions because we've got some questions that we were taking from our from different folks that we are We're going to relay to you as well, and some stuff that I'm just curious about, and I know that our audience is too. Let's start with the number one thing. And actually, before we jump into that, there was something that came across my cell phone that I actually just want to look right into the camera. If you are somebody that's thinking about buying anything electronic, hardware, or even toys, you better start shopping for it right now because the ports are backed up. I don't know if you've been following, whether you're watching this live or even you're watching this later on in the playback. It's not going to resolve itself anytime soon. The ports are backed up. They're 4 weeks in some places and 5 weeks in other cases. And so if you're planning on buying something anytime this year in 2021, are we in 2021 still?
Still.
Make a move on it right now because it may not be available for long because we're hearing from our suppliers some products as of today have a 12-week lead time. So you may want to think that puts you right into the new year. So you might want to get started on that right away. We're having a little problem with my camera, but that's all right. We'll power through. All right, CJ, let's jump right into it. The first thing that we want to tackle, the number one top mistake, I think, sellers have made, and the record right now of this year bears it out, is got to do with reviews. And as of just a month ago during the summer, Amazon kicked off 55,000 Chinese sellers. And my understanding, there's supposed to be even more that they're going to be kicking off. But I know you have a lot of insights into that. Tell us what you can or can't do with reviews nowadays on Amazon.
Well, you guys know me pretty well, and I always see the glass as half full. So the review manipulation, what's going on, the 55,000, I think it's now pushing 60,000, is really good for legitimate sellers who don't screw around or are less aggressive in their review obtainment. So if you're not doing anything right now to get reviews, I would stay the course. If you're taking some steps to drive reviews, I would stay the course. I wouldn't make any changes right now. And the services that are promising you reviews, stay away from them like the plague. Now, the opportunity that exists when you have tens of thousands of sellers getting kicked off is they have products. And we're starting to see American sellers approach sellers in China and Chinese brands to try and get their products. So, what's bad is sometimes a great opportunity. When real estate tanks, that's the time to start buying rental properties.
That's right.
So right now, the aggregators are in this for the long haul. They're buying up brand after brand. We haven't seen anybody focus on the Chinese sellers who had their legs cut off. And
interesting.
I've been in touch with dozens of them. And they're really hurting. They need to sell products. They need to move their products. So on the one hand, stay away from review obtainment services at all costs, but start exploring these other sellers in China who are very savvy business people and see if there's some way you can sort of hook up that maybe you can sell some of their products.
I did not think about that one. Dave, are we taking pencil and paper to this one? This sounds very interesting.
Yeah,
it's a very interesting approach.
Idea.
Yeah, because I've read the same thing, CJ, that the local chamber of commerce in Shenzhen is saying, that the economy for them is tanking. It's just they depended a lot on these 55,000, and now their economy. But it's a very interesting approach for an opportunity that's right under our noses. And I'm sure a lot of sellers that either listening to us right now or maybe watching this later will be like, good riddance, because a lot of these guys that were thrown off, they were flagrantly violating the Amazon policies. No?
100%. I mean, there are like electronic farms to get reviews and giveaways and buying and selling their own stuff. So yeah, do they do the same thing as American sellers, often at a much higher level? Absolutely. Are they sort of known for stealing, our ideas and inventions, relabeling it and that kind of stuff? Absolutely. So is it good? It's potentially good. There's also a contraction going on of Amazon sellers, right? So you got these tens of thousands of sellers in China getting the boot. You got the aggregators like Thrasio and SellerX and Forum and Boosted, right? they're buying and buying more accounts and more brands. And I think for the first time in the history of the platform, the number of sellers is actually contracting. So you guys out there who are watching this, who are advanced sellers, you know, the playing field, the competition, I think, is shrinking. So listen, there's always killer opportunities. Just got to look and find them.
All right. Well, that's definitely something to look at. We could do a whole show on that, on how to explore those opportunities. And I'm seeing that we have our first question of the day. It looks like Tony from Tampa wants to come in. And actually, we're going to be able to do this actually in a different way. Normally, it's on the chat. We're actually going to be able to do a video. This person coming in. Let's, Ori, go ahead and bring in Tony from Tampa.
Hey, CJ. How you doing?
That is great. That is absolutely great.
Big shout out, by the way, to Rolando and Dave. Happy to be on your show.
Right.
CJ, I got a question from down here. I sell artisan wood carved bottle coasters on Amazon, and can I get my friends and family to give me 5-star reviews? I won't get in trouble for that, will I?
Listen, you can absolutely do it, but you may get busted. So here's what we've seen happen literally dozens, if not hundreds of times. You start getting reviews, and Amazon, we believe, monitors Facebook and your friends and all that kind of stuff. So they link them to you. That's review manipulation, and you're bang, and your account goes down for some period of time. And review manipulation is really serious to the folks over at Amazon. So I would say that is exactly one of the wrong ways to do it, because those friends and family are probably also linked to you in different ways, by name, by Facebook, email addresses, physical addresses. So I wouldn't do it that way. I would just stay away. And the last thing you want to do now that we are in Q4 is to rock the boat. So no, don't do it that way.
Now, CJ, is it manipulation if those friends and family legitimately purchased products from the listings on Amazon and then gave reviews or seller feedback?
All right. Manipulation is like pornography. Okay. I'll tell you why. The United States Supreme Court, like in the 70s, said, you can't define pornography, but you know it when you see it, right? The same thing, like we don't know in advance what Amazon is going to deem to be review manipulation or not. What I can tell you is from our experience helping thousands of sellers and tens of thousands of listings is that if you're getting reviews from friends and family that'll link to you through like Facebook or other ways, that is a way that you get caught getting reviews, whether they did or did not actually buy the product. Now, it's always better for someone to buy your product, actually receive the product before leaving the review. But I would stay away from friends and family, especially this time of year. You want to do that kind of thing, come January or returnuary, right? Leave it for then, but certainly not now as you're in Q4.
Good advice.
Yeah, Ro, you're muted. But all right, CJ, thank you very much for your advice, and just want to give a big shout out to my folks in down here in Tampa, and thank you everybody. I'll be taking my leave now. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks Tony. Thanks for joining. That's Tony from Tampa, man.
He seems to be in a pretty good mood. He must not have been watching the baseball game last night.
Yeah, Tampa didn't they get booted out? Did the Bo Sox end up sweeping them out or what?
Yep, they closed it out last night, so
you got to be feeling good about that.
No game 5. Yep, we're feeling good up here in New England.
All right. Well, all right, Tony. Thanks for the question. Now, let's go to number 2. This is where we could easily, CJ, spend the whole episode talking about this next one, intellectual property and trademark. What actually is not allowed to be used on Amazon? Like images and text and words and video. I've read somewhere, and this may be the case, and you can clear this up as well. If you post an image on Amazon, other sellers can use that image because Amazon themselves, not the actual copyright holder, Amazon views it as a like a fair play. I can't remember the exact terminology, but if you're posting it on their website, they're not giving you any exclusive rights to that unless there is some special copyright for that.
Okay, so once you post something on Amazon, assuming you own it, like copyright's kind of odd. Like you don't have to file anything at all to own copyright interest in verbiage, pictures, songs, anything at all. As soon as it's created and saved in some type of media, you own copyright interest in it. You can't go to court without filing it, but you don't have to file with the government to own it. So when you post a picture of your product on Amazon, you're waiving its use on Amazon. The problem arises when sellers start posting images and verbiage that belong to other people and companies by scraping the internet for photos to use for their products. And if you do that, even if you are like a Photoshop god, okay, it's still a copyright violation. So those things you shouldn't do at all. When it comes to trademarks, the basic of trademark is you just can't take someone else's logo and slap it on your product. If you're not doing that, you've avoided like 95% of the problems.
And what do you
There
think
it is.
about this? There you go.
You can't take the McDonald's M and slap it on your T-shirt or the Amazon logo and stick it on your product. That's a clear mark violation.
Okay.
And copyright is really pictures and verbiage. You can't copy and paste. Even when it comes to like, creating a warranty. If you need a warranty for your private label product, start with somebody else's and then just edit it, spin the language a bit so you're not copying and pasting.
Well said. And did you want to ask something, Dave, or were you?
No, so we have our logo out there on listings that have been created by us. So folks take our logo and use it for the listings that they're creating if it's not copywritten?
Okay, so if you own your logo, you got it approved by the USPTO, right? Or you used Amazon Accelerator guys to get it, but have a registered mark. I can't take your mark and stick it on my product. Now, if I happen to buy a truckload of your T-shirts with your logo on, or a truckload of your products with your logo on it, then they're genuine, and I could go ahead and sell those products on Amazon. Use your logo, they're already on the products, and there's no violation as long as when the consumer's receiving the products, they're getting all the same, benefits that they would get if they purchased it from you. And that's a whole body of law called the first sale doctrine. But usually,
Right. Isn't that what Amazon goes by? Like you just said, that's a buzzword for Amazon itself, the first sale doctrine. Isn't that what they go by when it comes to what they deem fair play on their platform?
it is the whole ball of wax sometimes. So here's the first sale doctrine. It says that in the United States, you can buy and sell anything you want. You don't need the brand's permission. It doesn't exist in the US. Europe is different, but the US, I do not need the brand's permission to sell, as long as that when the consumer receives it from me, they're not receiving anything that is materially different than when the brand or an authorized seller delivers it. And it almost always will boil down to the warranty. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So then you get, okay, well, what's the difference in warranties? Well, like a money back guarantee is homogenous, and you get that anyway with Amazon. So that's all the warranty says.
Right.
It's like toilet paper. Who cares? Right. But if the warranty is something like Wusthof cutlery, is fancy steak knives, and that warranty says that if you have a problem with the knife, we'll take the knife back, we'll send it back to Germany and have it retooled. Third-party sellers have no access to that factory.
Mm-hmm.
So the consumer is not receiving the same thing. So that would be outside the first sale doctrine. Okay. So that's sort of what they're looking at. Is the consumer getting the same product, benefits, services, blah, 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 as if it came from an authorized seller? If they are, good to go. If they're not, you have a potential problem.
Now, what would happen, let's say, because this I've heard especially a lot on the retail arbitrage side. Some Tony from Tampa, for example, he goes to Walmart or Best Buy because because they're having a sale on Samsung TVs. All right, and Samsung's trying to liquidate them because they're making room for the next year's model, and it's the same exact Samsung stuff that's sold on Amazon. Can Tony from Tampa take Samsung display TVs and say, "Wow, these are like 50% off. I could go and buy a bunch of these and sell them on Amazon and make a killing"? Is that legit?
If it's a sample product, it's probably not. So what you're really doing is selling a used product as new,
Mhm.
right? Now, let's say they have 12 of these TVs
Right.
left over, right? And you buy them all, they're all brand new, all in the same box. Then you got to look at the warranty, right? And if they're going to get the same warranty that they would get buying from you, than if they bought directly from Best Buy or wherever, you are good to go. Also, there's an argument to be made that if you're drop shipping like from Best Buy, you're forgetting about Amazon's drop shipping problems right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're really a middleman, the consumer's actually getting it from Best Buy, well, then they are getting it from an authorized seller.
True.
Therefore, it is within the first sale doctrine and you're good to go. Again, separating that from Amazon's insanely pain in the neck drop shipping issues.
Right. Right. So what you're saying is drop ship from Walmart or Best Buy or any of these places. It's the exact same product, gets to the consumer totally within the first sale doctrine. And if the same example where, I just want to make this clear, Tony from Tampa goes over and it's the exact same Samsung TVs, sends it to the consumer. Now, when the consumer wants a warranty, does that seller need to honor the warranty and provide either replacement or something like that in accordance with the warranty that's stated in the box?
Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no, right? Depends what the warranty is. Some things a third party seller can absolutely deliver on, like returning your money.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, if you look at most warranties, they'll say like 30-day money back guarantee.
Right.
All you guys are stuck with 90 days with Amazon. So actually your warranty is
right now
better, right?
Yeah.
For any reason, they can use the TV, watch the Super Bowl, throw some beer at it, send it back in. They're getting their money back, right? So you really, every product, and listen, we do this on both sides. I am a lawyer, okay? I play both sides of just about everything.
Oh, you devil, you.
So it's almost always boils down to the warranty, and you got to look at it. And is the consumer getting the same thing from you that they would get from somebody else? And if you are a private label seller, you developed your own brand, right? Then you want to talk to us to build something into your products that takes it outside the first sale doctrine. Like, it's all perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
You want to sell their products? It's in the first sale doctrine. You own the brand? It is outside the first sale doctrine.
I love it. I love it. That's all great information. So the next thing on the list here, things, top 5 mistakes that sellers may be making when selling on Amazon. Number 3 is being unprepared. There's hijackers. We have different manufacturers, as we're talking about, competitors, and Amazon takedowns. What sort of activities should sellers be prepared for when copycats or competitors are trying to get their listings removed? And what's been your experience when working with sellers on these sort of events?
All right, the number, I love the graphics. The number one thing you got to have is your documentation, like just at the ready. As you're sourcing documents, make sure you're saving all the invoices, retail receipts, your manufacturing slips. You went to go visit the factory. You want to save everything in an organized fashion so that if someone makes a complaint against you, they're trying to take you down, you can respond really quickly and send it out the door. If you have listings that are being hijacked, screenshots are really great. Most sellers don't do it, but you really should. I think there's some software solutions out there that would automatically capture, your listings, but you want to make sure that you can show what the listing should look like when it's your product and your private label and your photographs, right? So that if someone hijacks the listing, again, you can immediately respond very, very quickly to Amazon. Amazon is looking for documentation to show that you're right. I mean, listen, every plan of action, all this rigmarole you guys got to go through are just exercises in being persuasive to Amazon staff over in India to show that you're right and they should do what you're asking them to do. So documentation really is the key to most of these things.
And besides the documentation, so you have screenshots, and I'm sure you've heard this from other sellers. I have the screenshots. I may even have videos, but my God, Amazon makes me go through the same copy and paste response all the time. Or sometimes the same case, they may ask me the same question 3 times in a row, although all the documentation is there. What would you say to the sellers or people that are watching this? You know, what's your advice to them? You know, maybe they're frustrated with Amazon. What say you?
Keep calm and write a kick-ass plan of action. Okay, or keep calm and hire my guys to hire a great plan of action. Because listen, I was part of a trip called the India sourcing trip, or indiasourcing.net. A woman named Megla invited me to go with them to India to look at products, you know, give a speech and that sort of thing. So while I was in India, I took a side trip to Hyderabad, and I went outside Amazon's offices. And every time there'd be a group of people taking a break, I'd walk up to them and say, "Hey, my name is CJ Rosenbaum. I'd like to ask you some questions."
You're rugged,
right?
man.
Oh, it was great. It was great. These guys like, "Hey, we're not supposed to talk to you." I'm like, "Hey, I understand you're not supposed to talk to me, but blah, blah, blah." And I'd get them yapping away. And I did this for 3 days in a row until they kicked me off their site. Why am I telling you this?
No undercover disguise, no mustache, no Tony from Tampa hat, or none of that.
Nothing. I tried for 2 months in advance to set up meetings. They gave me the big, no way, right? And so I did it anyway. But this is what I learned. The people who are reading your plans of action, the people who are clicking the blurbs to send back to you, approving your POA, asking for more information, they are all, as far as I'm aware, young people straight out of college. They call them freshers. They have the greatest job available to them, which is working at Amazon, and they really are trying to do the right thing. Like, they haven't been indoctrinated in a negative way at all. Right. So keep calm, don't write anything nasty. If they ask for more information about a particular issue, give it to them in concise language that's documented. And they're trying to do the right thing first for Amazon, then the consumer. And I used to say, it's down here for sellers. But it's really not. Okay. The people who are looking at these things are trying to do the right thing overall. They certainly have quotas, although I couldn't get anyone to tell me what the quotas are. So if you catch them at the end of their shift, they're not going to have a whole lot of time. So be calm and write a kick-ass, concise, well-documented plan of action. Just keep at it.
It makes sense. CJ, you had a name for those folks right out of school that are in India that are working for Amazon. What did you call them?
Freshers, fresh out of college. They call themselves freshers.
Freshers. Oh,
yeah.
So
if you go
fresh
to
out of college, not freshmen.
No. Fresh out of college, like fresh college graduates. Okay. If you go to our YouTube channel, I got about, I don't know, maybe a dozen and a half videos of inside information from Amazon. You'll see pictures of me, with the guys working there. They got their Amazon badges. I got a guy riding away on his dirt bike on his motorcycle.
God. You are rugged, boy.
It was a great experience, Also, people think they're all bots. They're not. They're real people. They work, the algorithms spit out reports. The freshers review the reports. And then their responses, they pick and choose blurbs. But if they decide something doesn't fit, they have a lot of discretion to go above and beyond sort of the script. And if they don't like the script, they have the ability to ask for changes to it. And listen, Amazon's a remarkable business because they run things, really well on a very broad marketplace. So just keep calm and be persuasive.
One of the things that we've been using more, and as they've been doing social media and stuff, is the usage of video. When we get to a lot of the back and forth, sometimes when you're talking about documentation, we've found that using video as a way of documentation to either from a technical, this is not happening, or this is supposed to happen, or this is not showing up, or that and the other, we find, especially, when you get this back and forth sometimes, that documenting it with a video, a short video, minute or so, helps move things along much more quickly, because there's a lot less debate when it comes to, where this should be, or what the error message or whatever. Here it is. Here's what happens when I click, or here's what happens when I download, or here's what happens when I upload, or here's what happened when I'm trying to change something. This is the error that we're getting. And there's really no debate. It's your screen, it's your computer, it's your account. Here it is. And that seems to shorten amount of back and forth that we see with their support folks, especially the India team.
Yeah, I think that's genius. We're doing it on a much more limited basis. Usually, if you're comparing a product to a product and trying to show the differences, and while it's not violative of anyone's intellectual property rights, but yeah, picture says 1,000 words, and a video is even more. I also think, since you're dealing with live people, I think a video and photographs connect on a visceral level. So that's the way to go. It's the way of the future. You can educate, you can transfer a boatload of information in a very short period of time, with videos. I think that's brilliant.
Well, and but we could probably spend another hour on this one because there's a lot of issues to tackle with Amazon. Anybody that's been selling on the platform knows that Amazon can be a beast to deal with, especially with all of the hires they have. So it looks like in the queue, we also have another question from Gary. And we're going to be able to bring in Gary as well and present him to you as well with our new technology. So Gary, welcome to What the Tech. What's your question for Mr. CJ?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
How you doing?
All right. Where are you checking in from today?
I'm checking in from the cloud, Rolando.
Do you know what server you're on? Are you in some particular server or anything like that?
Unfortunately, I'm not at liberty to say because of security reasons. I hope you understand.
You're good, Gary.
All right. Anyway, hey CJ, I got a quick question for you. I got exclusive distribution rights to Robo Coffee energy drink, but I see all of these other sellers on Amazon selling them. Amazon has not replied to my emails about it. What can I do?
All right. Well, there's a lot of things you could do. What you're talking about is brand protection. Okay. So we defend thousands and thousands of sellers. We also represent hundreds of brands right now. So the first thing you got to do is make sure that your coffee is outside this thing called the first sale doctrine. Okay. Now, particularly with coffee, I'll throw some things out there. If you're fulfilled by a merchant, then you can argue and you can really create a storage environment for your coffee that keeps it fresh and tasting great and preserves the caffeine level and whatever. And therefore, other sellers cannot match the way you store your coffee, and you're fulfilling by merchant. So it's never going to FBA. And that might be a good mechanism to engage in your brand protection and take it outside the first sale doctrine. If you're using FBA, that argument goes out the window because your coffee is stored in the same place as everybody else's. Mm-hmm. If you're using FBA, you want to add something to your warranty. You want to add some copyright material to it, maybe a link to a certain portion of your website. Build like sort of a lifestyle brand into your coffee, where you're now taking a rather generic product like coffee, but adding something to it that other sellers cannot deliver. Nobody else is permitted to sell your copyright material. So add something to your coffee about how this is the best coffee in the world. Here's the lifestyle in the cloud. And the goal is to find some way to take your coffee outside the first sale doctrine. So then you have the legitimate means to get rid of sellers. Then there's like a multi-step brand protection process. My partner, Rob Siegel, manages that area of our practice. You got to monitor every ASIN. You got to send a really clear, effective, polite, and courteous cease and desist communication. And that will get rid of like 60 to 80% of the hijackers. And then the ones that remain, assuming you have the goods on them, because your product's outside the first sale doctrine, how to make a complaint on Amazon so that you have a practical 100% success rate when you do that. But you want to avoid making complaints as much as possible. You don't want to needlessly harm a seller. So it is monitoring, effective cease and desist communications, and then knowing how to make the complaint, but only when you have to.
That's great advice. So you're saying play nice, be firm, and turn up the heat when necessary, but don't jump to a boiling point.
100% accurate. We probably talk to anywhere from a half dozen to a dozen sellers a week. And they say, hey, listen, I've got 300 units left. I've got 5 units left. Can I have a licensing agreement? Can we work something out? Right? Sometimes brands will actually buy back inventory because they don't want anybody harming the brand. And most brands are very, very thoughtful. They don't want to harm mom and pop selling out of their basement, right? So as the brand, you want to make sure you have legitimate means to get them off, meaning it's outside the first sale doctrine. Monitor C&D complaint, and the monitoring system gets a little bit hairy because you got to monitor first-time violators, right? Versus guys who come back. I won't sell. I won't
the sneaky
sell.
ones.
And then they're back on. So we actually have a separate website for it. It's brandprotectionamazon.com. Brandprotectionamazon.com, because we saw guys who were doing it really in a really bad way and really harming sellers needlessly. Yep. We do it with a scalpel. You always have legitimate means, and you should always be courteous to fellow sellers. It's the right thing to do, and they can really drive up your ODR rate if they want to, if you treat them poorly.
Oh yeah. I mean, you just go to lunch with any group of Amazon sellers, and you hear horror stories about that. How competitors, will do things just to spite you, and give you negative reviews. But CJ, I've also heard that if you have a way to prove that these are competitors putting in inappropriate or fraudulent reviews just for that, you can get them removed. Not a very easy, not a fast process, but that can be done.
Yep. We used to see it comes in waves, First there were like false bad reviews, right? Like giving you 1 star, sort of destroying you. And then there were purposely written 5-star reviews that were written with really poor verbiage to show that they were fake reviews.
Yes.
Right. And then, it's all circular, right? Like all the knowledge kind of comes together, this whole friends and family thing, right? So if a brand needlessly puts sellers out of business, they can ask their friends and family on Facebook and every place else to trash you, right? Mm-hmm. And Amazon doesn't trace it backwards that way in terms of review manipulation. So the bottom line is treat everyone with courtesy, professionalism, respect, but be firm, and most importantly, be clear why the sale of your products is outside this thing called the first sale doctrine.
Really good advice. Really good advice.
And that was awesome. Let's congratulate our bot here who came in, Gary the tech bot. Gary, wonderful. We're gonna send you back to the cloud. Let you keep all of our trade secrets, or your trade secrets, in this case, Robo Coffee, up and running. And thanks, CJ, for taking Gary's question today.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
All righty.
So next on our list, CJ, is number 4, contracts in Amazon. What are some common mistakes made by companies when it comes to contract enforcement by Amazon?
Oh boy, a lot of companies think you could take Amazon to court. I'm going to sue them. You can't. Okay, you just can't. The contract is really clear. It's called the Business Solutions Agreement. And everybody and every company selling on Amazon has not only agreed to the BSA when you signed on, you agreed to all the changes that Amazon puts on without notice. And that contract says you have a dispute with Amazon, you go to arbitration at the American Arbitration Association. So I want to sue. You can't. Arbitration is generally better for smaller claims. It's not really good when you start getting into like, the 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, the $1 million range. But it's stuck anyway. So that's probably the number one contractual misunderstanding that we get. And I'll throw another thing out there for those of you who have your own private label brands or your own brands. You should reorganize your company in a way that one company owns your brand and your trademark and your copyright interest and all that happy stuff. And another company is the one who has a contract with Amazon. Because if you have one deal with Amazon, you can't use a lot of tools, right? But if you have an IP holding company, that company has no relationship with Amazon, and that company can use the court system. Because I got to tell you, the worst case scenario is if you have to go after Amazon for $1 million or more in an arbitration, because Amazon could insist that you use a panel of 3 arbitrators, Okay, which means you're not just paying one person to listen to you, you're paying three,
Mm.
and then you're paying those three people to talk with each other. It actually quintuples the cost.
Yeah.
Where if you're suing in a federal court, your tax dollars are paying for the judge.
Yeah.
So big arbitrations, you really get hurt in terms of the cost. You don't save anything on legal fees. Your costs are through the roof for the tribunal, but it is what it is, So that's the number one. That was a really long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
Have just question on the arbitration part. Have you seen Amazon sellers successfully mount claims against Amazon? We're just talking about Amazon themselves during arbitration.
Oh yeah, all the time. According to Amazon's outside counsel, my firm handles 75% of all the arbitrations for all the sellers against Amazon. And we are really, really happy with the results that we get at arbitration. We don't win every case. Nobody can say that, right? But by bringing an arbitration, you're getting a whole nother set of eyes. You're getting Amazon's lawyers, and they're really good, smart people. We fight each other and we kick each other in the you-know-what, from time to time. You're also getting their internal team over at Amazon to look at the issues. So
you could do discovery? You could do discovery with that and get documents that you otherwise wouldn't get? Or
in the smaller cases, the discovery is quite limited. And expedited arbitration, which is up to 50 grand, discovery can be very, very limited. If you're non-expedited, discovery is a lot more open. But I got to tell you, most of the cases resolve. Okay, if you're right and you can't resolve the issues with plans of actions and escalations and, right into, then Bezos, now Jassy, right? Arbitration is your only mechanism forward. And I'm really happy with the results that we have. They negotiate fairly. When you're right, you resolve. And when you're wrong, right? If you're totally wrong, you go in front of an arbitrator and you roll the dice. And I got a case, we call it the Spasse case, right? So our client was totally wrong, right? He was buying and selling iPhones, and Amazon claimed that they were counterfeit. They weren't really iPhones. And before we were involved, okay, our client sent in an invoice for space gray iPhones. Only the word space was spelled Space rather than Space. So it's Spasse.
Yeah.
So, we thought we were dead in the water, but client needed to proceed. And you know what? I pulled it out. I won with an invoice from Apple that had space gray spelled wrong. So,
wow.
I'm not saying you can always do that, but listen, you lawyers over at Amazon, you know what I'm talking about. Never forget Spasse, because you should resolve cases with our sellers, let them get back into business without pushing the envelope, because sometimes I will kick your butt even with a fake invoice.
I love it. No holds barred. And, there are different firms that have different approaches when it comes to the legal side. And Apple's known to be very ruthless as well when it comes to Amazon, and I'm sure they probably put the pressure on Amazon to try to do everything possible as well to not have anybody on Amazon. But there are things that Amazon will allow. I wanted to see if you can speak to that a little bit as we're talking about Amazon and things that you can do. Like Apple's a clear case, because any seller that's tried to put anything related, accessories, cases, what have you, it doesn't matter, chargers, the iPhones themselves, and Amazon themselves has tried to make it even harder for those sellers to be on the platform. But how would somebody, if we're using that as a benchmark, and probably clearly the highest benchmark there is around Amazon and iPhone, how would somebody get that on that platform?
What you want to do, listen, you want to do some analysis before you start dumping money into inventory. Like, there's no reason to go toe to toe against Apple. They will make complaints. They will refuse to withdraw the complaints. Their law firm, I think, is K&L Gates, like a monster law firm. These guys get like $800-900 an hour, right? I certainly believe in dispute avoidance, right? So if you're looking at a great source of products, do some research, check the forum, see if other sellers are having a problem, like Samsung headphones for like 2 years. Like there were so many sellers just getting screwed over by Samsung making complaints. There are other really small brands who are just overly aggressive. So if you're not going to make a boatload of money and there's a chance that it's going to be a boatload of aggravation, look for something else. And I'm a big proponent of developing your own private label brand. Develop your own IP rights. Get your own mark. But I would just say, if you can avoid the fight, you do it. Do some research in advance, and then everything we do as business people is risk versus reward, right? You're going to make $1 million by selling one pair of AirPods. Do it. Grab the $1 million and run. Okay. You're going to make 46 cents and risk your business going down. Give them away. Okay,
Right.
and look at everything that way.
And I think that the other thing, if while we're still parked on this Amazon thing that comes up, is the map. There's a lot of, both on the seller side as well as on the Amazon side and the manufacturing side. I actually say Amazon is quite clear their view on that, but a lot of folks in the industry, in our industry, as well as even other industries, I talk to other sellers in perfumes and toys, and the manufacturer has a map policy or some type of authorization policy for Amazon, but sellers either go in anyways and sell it, or sellers that are below the said map pricing for that particular manufacturer, and they come in and start making a lot of noise about it. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, this is a great question. So back in 2007, when Antonin Scalia was still on the Supreme Court, he was the deciding vote, right? And they had a map pricing case. And what the case was Legion, Leegin. It was a leather goods company. And the United States Supreme Court said that a map policy is a contract, right? So if you signed an agreement that you would not advertise the product underneath the given price, you're going to be held to that contract. But if you didn't sign the contract, if you're not a party to that deal, then boom, there is no map pricing, unless the product has to do with something the government wants to inspire, like life-saving medicines or research and development, right? So you're selling like plastic cups here, right? And they say you can't do it because of the map pricing policy, but you never signed the agreement. No good. Tell them to go jump in a lake. You're good to go. It won't be enforced by Amazon. It doesn't exist. Way back to 2007, United States Supreme Court. If it's something that's really life-saving, which most of what we do is not going to cause anyone's demise or really save a life, right?
Right.
So map pricing, if you didn't sign the contract, mostly out the window.
And
Really good advice.
And Amazon themselves. So that's the construct around the map and Amazon. So Amazon, really, what you're saying is they won't honor map enforcement, which is the other side of the coin, where different manufacturers assume that they have a map program and that Amazon will honor that and enforce that. Is that what I'm hearing you say? They won't.
I don't think in any it might be tens of thousands of sellers by now. I don't think I've ever seen Amazon enforce any map policy against anybody. That's purely like manufacturer and a signatory to the contract. Okay. Amazon routinely will disregard anything with the word distribution in it or distributor. And that's what these guys in India told me. And one of the times I walk up, they're smoking cigarettes. I introduce myself. I get them talking. And they basically said that they were trained by exclusion, right? So if a complaint has the word distribution, authorization, or any form of that word, they basically throw it in the garbage, right? So
Wow.
Yeah. So if you claim, let's say you're trying to do brand protection the wrong way, you're like counterfeit and unauthorized. They'll take that complaint and throw it in the garbage because they had the word authorized, even though the counterfeit complaint, might be totally valid. So if you're a brand manager, right, don't ever use the word authorization or distribution. Focus on what really is your claim that holds water. And that's some of the things that we learned from India, from cross-examining Amazon's executives, dealing with their lawyers. We get information from all over the place. That's one of the things that we learned that was kind of mind blowing. That like,
Well, you know what? I want you to rewind what you just said, Ori. Let's use a pro tip with what CJ just said. Pro tip, CJ. Let's hear that again.
okay, if you are in the game of protecting your brand or you are a brand manager and you have to assert a complaint against Amazon, you have to make sure you focus on what the substance of the complaint is. Don't use any extra verbiage at all. If it's counterfeit, it's counterfeit. Okay. If the consumer is not receiving the benefit, that's what you say. Okay. But don't include the word authorization or distribution in your complaint, because Amazon will just take the whole thing and throw it in the garbage.
Awesome. That's well put. That's a lot of brands and private labels out there. There you go. You have a very good pro tip from an expert who's dealt with thousands of cases on Amazon. And I want to, well, this last point on Amazon, I heard you say on a webinar a while back ago, especially for sellers. This is now for sellers, a tip for sellers. If you're bringing goods from overseas, from China, and you were talking about the factories in China that they tend to copy things that private labelers are doing, and you'd pointed out that you could send goods to a black box factory or warehouse in China to try to give you one layer of protection from both Amazon, who's known to try to find the better goods out there and bring it into their own basics brand, as well as other importers that want to bring those products and goods into the U.S.
So this is one of the things that's so awesome about our community is that everyone shares information. So this was not my genius. I am certainly not a genius, and I'm rarely the smartest guy in any room. So at Global Sources in Hong Kong, I can't remember the guy's name. He was talking about this, and we all know Amazon tries to find your suppliers and steal your products and that sort of thing and cut you out of the loop. So he identified this, and he had clients doing it where, let's say it was like a watch and a watch band, right? He'd have the body of the watch built in one factory, the watch band created in another. They go to the black box factory who puts it together that then ships it to Amazon. So if Amazon reverse engineers it, they're not getting anything. And it doesn't have to even be an assembly factory. It could literally go from the manufacturer to the black box factory, and then they ship it out. And they're really just a fulfillment center with no information or knowledge.
Right.
That's
just
awesome.
protecting your source. Protect your source from the biggest bear in the room. That's Amazon.
I love it. Very helpful. Very helpful.
Pro tip. Pro tip.
Pro tip. All right, here we go. Let's roll another pro tip. See, pro tip number 2. Woohoo! CJ, let's just give you that little snippet again about the black box factory.
If you don't want Amazon to know where you're getting your products from, have it go from your source of your products to another warehouse. From that warehouse, get it over to Amazon. This way they can never trace it back to where they're actually coming from, or at least you're making it a little bit more challenging.
Hiding in the shadows. Hiding in the shadows.
Oh, love it. Love it. Love it. Go for it, Dave.
CJ, we want to wrap up our list with number 5 of the top 5 mistakes sellers are making on Amazon. Number 5 is as sellers not understanding your rights. What rights do sellers have when it comes to litigation or legal action involving Amazon?
Okay. When it involves Amazon, specifically, if Amazon is your target, we already talked about this, you have to go to arbitration. But your rights are not limited if you have somebody else screwing you over. So if it's like a seller versus seller dirty tricks and they're costing you money, you have every right to go after them in a court if you need to. Okay. If you own a brand and someone is stealing your sales or copying your logo or somehow stealing food off your plate, you have the right to use the court system. So the prohibition against like court and the limitation on your mechanisms only applies if Amazon is your target. It doesn't apply the other way around. So we represented a guy who sold sports gear. I think he was in New Jersey or Pennsylvania. And he was buying his products from the Dallas Cowboys and another entity that has to remain anonymous because I can't reveal it, right? And the Dallas Cowboys and this other entity started making false counterfeit complaints against him.
Oh.
and he's a legitimate guy. He was losing like $100,000 a month,
And this
right?
was legit product, so essentially a legitimate NFL licensed product.
Legitimate NFL, legitimate Dallas Cowboys, right? So Google it. Google Rosenbaum, Familaro, and the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. So as long as it's not Amazon, you have all the same rights that you would in any other business environment. Again, in order to go to court, you really have to look at your damages and are they enough to warrant the costs, right? But your rights are only limited when it comes to Amazon as a potential defendant, not anybody else. Okay. Your rights are still the same if somebody else is messing with you, and you don't have to take it lying down.
Right. And on that front, regarding the non-Amazon portion of it, so if you have, like you said, in this case, it was the Dallas Cowboys coming after you, although you are selling licensed product, right? And could you then take it to them for because essentially, I would assume then your listings is taken down, sales are dropping, the claim is false in that it's saying it's a counterfeit. Can you take? Do you have any rights as a seller to? Hey, wait a minute, that's not right. Do I have any rights when it comes to that? Somebody putting in some false claim like that when you're completely in the right and it's not counterfeit product?
100% yes. 1,000%, 10,000% yes. In fact, you can also use that as leverage. So let's say the Dallas Cowboys make a false counterfeit complaint against you, and that causes your listing, your account to go down. It also tarnishes the value of your Amazon-based business, right? There's a huge market right now to sell your Amazon-based business.
Absolutely.
And if it's worth, 100 clean, now it's worth like 80, right? That cost you value. So when they make a false counterfeit complaint, this is also why you should never make false counterfeit complaints. You have claims for defamation. You have claims for defamation per se, which means it goes to a business. You also have a claim for interference with your contract with Amazon. And these are all legitimate claims. So anyone makes a false counterfeit complaint against you, our first line of attack is to use it as leverage, right? Say, hey, listen, we don't want to have to sue you, but you made a false counterfeit complaint. They're always like, well, they're unauthorized. I'm like, but your complaint was counterfeit.
Right.
And it's defamation because that can subject you to prison. So use that as leverage to get the complaint off your account. And if you're losing a lot of money, 3, 4, 500 grand or more, yeah, sue the Dallas Cowboys. I did it.
And what happened when you?
I can tell you that you can read about it if you Google Rosenbaum, Famularo, my awesome partner. It was before Rob made partner, and the Dallas Cowboys. I could also tell you that I was really happy with the result. Okay. Other than that,
so I take it there was some settlement, right?
all I can tell you.
Oh, okay.
You remember after where's Dick Cheney? Where's Dick Cheney? I can neither confirm nor deny the existence of the vice president.
Yeah. So I get it. So in terms of rights, anything, let's say maybe we weren't using Dallas, but something like that where an entity comes out and files the complaint with Amazon, says, hey, you guys are selling counterfeit, which is almost always the first line of defense with the bigger brands. That's usually what they say and usually what they put out. And sometimes it's legit, right? You've been in this industry for a long time. You're like, this guy shouldn't have been selling counterfeit, right? Like we've seen some stuff like in China that's instead of saying Tide, it says TIDS, and all this other stuff, all this knockoff stuff. But if it's not a knockoff product, it's not, it's legitimately the same brand or licensed. In this case, you were saying the Dallas Cowboys and the NFL. If that's their complaint because they're trying to knock you out of the game, rather than it really be a counterfeit, then you can come back and probably get some money for that.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. 100%.
All right. Wow. Interesting. Super interesting. Super interesting. Well, I think what we will do is let's summarize those top 5 for the folks that are watching us today, or maybe they're watching us on the playback. The top 5 mistakes. Let's go through them. We're just going to list them off Number one is when it comes to reviews, do not manipulate those reviews. You'll get in big trouble, probably get thrown off the platform. Not probably, you will when Amazon catches you. Number two, give me number two. Number two, improper use of intellectual property and trademark. Don't take the M, the yellow M from McDonald's and slap it on your listing, or do something to manipulate that logo because you will get in hot water. Stay away from doing that, and try to use your own images and video if you can, or other stuff that's in the public domain that's got the ability to use that. Number three. Let's go to number three. Be prepared. Hey, we've been on Amazon, I don't know, probably going 8 years. And being prepared ahead of time, planning, strategizing always pays off because crap happens. And if you're not ready for some of those events, hijackers, takedowns, and the rest, you will spend so much time when it all goes down that it will tie you up and probably waste a ton of money. Number four. And by the way, on number three, you want to have a good lawyer like CJ to help you with that. If you don't have a good plan of action, their team does a really good job on that. Number four, expecting Amazon to enforce contracts. This is something that we went into great lengths about today. Don't have that expectation. Amazon does not honor MAP policy, authorized agreements, or anything like that. They're only concerned about the agreement between you and them, which is called the BSA. So anything that's inside the BSA, that's what you want to look at. Otherwise, Amazon really doesn't honor a lot of stuff that's outside of it. Number five, and probably one of the more important ones on here, is understanding your rights. As we've learned, you do have rights when it comes to selling on the platform, as well as things that happen externally from the platform, such as other sellers or manufacturers that may be making false claims against you. And then you have rights as well to take legal action on those claims. So, and if you don't know what those rights are or need more legal advice, you want to talk to this handsome guy that's right below me in his firm. That is the premier law firm when it comes to Amazon issues today. They know I'm sure. I don't even have to ask you. Those lawyers over in Seattle probably know your name, your first name. They probably just see it's CJ. Oh, what does he want?
We do. We have a really good working relationship with Amazon's outside counsel, the firm called Davis Wright Tremaine. Senior guy over there is a guy named John Goldmark. He's a brilliant guy. He's a good guy. He's a good lawyer, although we fight toe to toe a lot. We also have some good working relationships with some of their inside counsel, and it just comes from not engaging in a lot of BS. You got the goods, you got the goods.
Right. Well put today. And CJ, if folks want to get in touch with you and your team about any of the issues we talked today, where should they go?
All right. I'm old school. I like to talk on the telephone and have the back and forth communication. So the toll free is 8779-SELLER and 8779-SELLER. My email address is cj@amazonsellerslawyer.com. Sellers is plural, lawyer singular. And our website has a big fat case submission button at amazonsellerslawyer.com. But again, call. I really do prefer the back and forth interaction. I'm really cool giving away information. So 8779-SELLER is our toll-free number.
And I understand you have one of the most extensive libraries out there on information for free. So if you're just starting on this or further an advanced seller, you've got a ton of articles and videos addressing many of the pressing issues when it comes to being on Amazon.
Yeah, I think we're over a couple of thousand now. We generally publish around 2 to 3 per day. We have an insanely awesome video editing team. And as new information comes in, we try and get it out there. And it's on our YouTube channel. It's on our website. And if I can offer your viewers something on the house.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of courses out there about how to sell. And I took what we have and created one as well. It's at AmazonTrainingCenter.com. And if you send me a note, I'll send you a link. You can get on there for free and take a look around. Then give me your feedback, say this is great, or, this part kind of sucks. Your feedback is very, very valuable, so we can get more and more quality information out there.
That's terrific, CJ. What a wonderful nugget for those that are listening, even after the playback, because this is going to live on for probably years, and people are going to be able to look up that resource. And while we're talking about resources and material and knowledge, if you liked this material we brought you today, bump the like button, because that lets us know that we're on the right track with the information that you want to see. We invite you, send us a suggestion, a comment. If there's something that our team thinks that our audience can benefit from, we will bring it in a future segment in our podcast. And before we go to, we got trivia now, right?
So we open up our show today with a 2 truths and a lie. It all related around Amazon, CJ. So I might toss this your way and see if you can give us an answer. So let's take a quick review. 2 truths and a lie. 2 of these statements are true. The other's fake. Which is which? Number 1, is it true that the fastest delivery record for same-day Prime delivery is 23 minutes? Number 2, it took Amazon 5 years before recording an annual net profit for the first time. And number 3, Amazon's first customer got a building named after them. 2 truths and a lie, CJ. What do you think?
Well, I thought it was 7 years, so I'm going to go with number 3. I don't think there's any consumer who got a building named after him or her. So I'm going with number 3 being the BS one.
All right. Let's reveal the answer.
Oh, CJ, your logic was good, but it ran against a brick wall today.
Like I said, man, not the smartest guy in any room, but I know how to help sellers.
Oh, the lie is it took Amazon 5 years before recording an annual net profit for the first time. Look at that.
Longer? I was gonna say it might be longer than 5 years.
Oh, so it took them 10 years. The truth is, it took them 10 years instead of 5. Yep.
And look at them, and look at them now. And that was probably all built into the model, from what I understood. Take a loss, shut down all the brick and mortar, and then dominate the e-retail space. Unbelievable.
They got a lot of help from COVID this year, or almost we're going on 2 years now on this. So I know I like my packages coming in on time, and it's getting faster and faster. So I'm sure millions of others are doing the same around the world. So, CJ, you've been a wonderful sport today. I love it. All the nuggets, all the tips that you have provided us today. A lot to chew on, a lot to think about, a lot of value. So I really appreciate you coming on. Also want to thank our other guest, Tony from Tampa. And I want to thank Gary, the Robo Coffee founder from earlier this afternoon. So if you've stuck around all the way to the end, we've got a bonus for you right here. Where are we going to this? Right here, over here. Dave and I've got some interesting videos for you to check out. The entrepreneurship journey, my journey on getting Global Tech off the ground and getting it to its 20th year that we're celebrating here very soon, as well as the future of work. We will wait for you in both of those episodes. See you.